Hello and welcome to another episode of It Had to Happen, the People's Podcast. I'm your host, Krystal Karter, and today I want to talk to you about this episode of Den of Kings that I recently watched entitled Where I'm From. This episode featured T.I., Jermaine Dupri, Eric Bellinger, and Jacquees. Now, Den of Kings, if you don't know, is hosted by the Kirk Franklin. Kirk invites people into his home. They have a great meal and they talk about taboo topics like their feelings and mental health and their wants and needs, etc. Now, I absolutely love watching these episodes because it gives me barbershop talk with the undertone of like spirituality, and I get to learn more about men from men, more information that I otherwise would not have, either because I didn't ask, or if I did ask, the man doesn't feel like I'm a safe space for him to share his true feelings. So I absolutely love watching Den of Kings. I encourage you to not only go watch this episode, but watch a few past episodes if you want to kind of get into different type of men's head, if that makes sense. Anyway, so today I want to share a few takeaways that I got from this particular episode. And the first takeaway that I got had to do with core beliefs. I'm really big on core beliefs while I'm reading How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. So Kirk Franklin asked the question. He asks, when you look back where you came from, do you have memories of pain or peace? Absolutely love this question. I also absolutely love that no one answered it directly. So Jermaine Dupri was one of the first to answer, and I actually really love his answer because he absolutely didn't answer the question, but what he did was share how he basically shared a core belief of his, which is he doesn't dwell on what happened. He focuses on what's happening and what will happen. And I can be honest, in the past few years, I've adopted a very similar mindset, because there's nothing I can do about the past. Things happen. God forgives. I should too. So I try to focus on the right now of things, because without it, you can easily be paralyzed in your present by the things of your past, if that makes sense. God gives us the option to choose to live in the past or to focus on the future with Him. And I choose the latter, right? So the other three guys at the table, T.I. and Jacquees, they all had a very similar response to this question. Now, I'll be honest, they too did not answer it directly. But what they did share, again, was a core belief that was instilled in them by people around them, right? They basically said everyone treated them like they were going to be that dude all their life. And what that looked like is positioning them to be exactly who they could see that they were called to be. For example, that's keeping, Jacquees out of trouble, or keeping him out the streets, or that's letting Jermaine Dupri ride along to music sessions, or letting T.I. record his first demo in a trap studio, I guess. They all had this core belief before they became who they were going to be. And I think, on the wave of core beliefs, it's important for us to really identify what our core beliefs are and make a decision on if those core beliefs align with who we want to be and how we want to show up in the world. I said this in the last video, but core beliefs are so important to our everyday life, our relationships, relationship with ourselves, relationship with others, relationship with work, relationship with our kids. And while these core beliefs are instilled in us as children, the beauty is you can make a change if you decide that what those core beliefs are no longer align with who you are or who you want to be. For example, in the book, How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera, she talks about taking baby steps toward, changing those core beliefs. And one of the steps you can take today is just what you tell yourself about yourself. For example, when I was younger, a core belief that was trying to instill in me was the fact that I was lazy. And people would call me lazy because I took a lot of naps, or I didn't move as fast as they wanted me to be. I've since switched that core belief from I'm lazy to I value rest. I listen to my body and I lay down when I need to, and that's okay. Another core belief was that I talk too much. No one said, Krystal, you talk too much, but every parent-teacher conference, they would say, oh, she's an amazing student, but she talks too much. Hey, yo, Dre, I got something to say. Like, what do you want me to do? So that core belief has then switched from I talk too much to I'm going to speak up when I feel like I have something to say. Another point that I really loved when talking about survivor's remorse, I shared his belief in Luke 12:48, which is to whom much is given, much is required, right? Heard. But what he said next really hit home for me. Because he mentioned like, I don't really feel bad for people who are alive because we got the same 24 hours. Like, granted, my 24 hours come with a few $1 million, but you could still bootstrap it, so to speak. But he mentioned that he feels more of a way for people who didn't get to live to see the dream manifest. And I too felt that because I have a cousin named Victor who was older than me. He had deep chocolate skin. He was bald-headed. And he was between the age of 10 and 14 maybe. And he was bald because he had cancer. And I remember Victor being around one day and then never seeing him again. Never even talking about him again, honestly, with my family. Similarly, I remember this little girl, probably when I was my daughter's age, maybe a little older, maybe 5. I had a friend who lived next door on the right side of my grandma's house in Jackson, Mississippi, and she was so pretty. I remember her, I don't know why I remember her in this light blue dress with a big bow on her hair. She had like this sandy brown colored hair. She was my friend. The last time we played together, I didn't expect it to be the last time we played together. But it was because she was brutally murdered by her stepfather. Next door to the yard we played in, like it didn't make any sense to me. And then there's this guy, my elementary school boo turned homie. His name was Pee-wee. He's a smart guy. Like we used to sing Sammy I Like on the phone in 3rd and 4th grade. Yep. But he would have done so well at Clark Atlanta University. Like he would have killed it. One, because he was handsome, but also because he was very intelligent. But his life was ended abruptly due to gun violence. So when I think these are people that literally come up in my moment that T.I. had, I think about them. I think about the earthly experiences that they'll never get to enjoy. Now, the gag is they're having much better experiences than we are right now because of where they are. But even in my adult mind, I wish they had more time to have fun the way I've had fun, or experience like an iPad for the first time, or go to Mardi Gras or South Beach, Miami, spring break back in the day before they was like no more people visit. So when T.I. said, I feel a way for the people who are not alive to see the dream manifest, I felt that because I understood that because I felt that. So that's something that I took away that really like hit home for me, and it kind of made me pause the video and just kind of reflect and be grateful that I had got to experience those people, but also feel my feelings about them not being here. So the last thing I want to touch on that I got from the episode is when the topic of being judged came up. Now everyone at the table gave their take. I'm not going to get into those details, but when Jermaine Dupri asked Kirk Franklin, like, what about you? Because he kind of was like, yo, you sitting over here in a Louis Vuitton suit, you always on stage dancing, like you get judged. How does it impact you? And Kirk Franklin was like, at first it's painful, and I can understand that, because when you are trying to live for God and it doesn't translate to people and they start to throw the stones, it can be a bit painful, right? But one thing that he said is that he's not afraid of anyone wanting to make sure his intentions are genuine. He was like, I welcome it because I may not always be getting it right. And I was so good for a number of reasons, right? But mainly because it humanized him. Because we all know Kirk Franklin is like Kirk Franklin. Like he's been praising God since we were kids. And he's been very consistent, right? You know, the Bible speaks about people being faithful. He's been very faithful, maybe not perfect, but definitely faithful. But we know that because we read our Bible, we know there's no hierarchy in heaven other than the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. But everybody else basically on the same level for the most part. But on earth, we may hold him to a higher standard, a higher esteem because he's Kirk Franklin. But for him to acknowledge that I may not always get it right, so yes, check me, speaks volumes to his understanding of his position as being a member of the body. Which no one is surprised because it's Kirk Franklin. He could have easily said, you know, I don't like it when they judge me because y'all should know better by now that my heart posture is toward God. But instead, he's like, no, check me. Like I'm your brother in Christ. Check me. If you feel like what I'm doing isn't representing the kingdom properly, it's okay to tell me. Because then I can go back into my prayer closet. I can go back into my word. I can meditate on my decisions and see what my intentions were so that I can show up better the next time, which I absolutely love. And that got me to thinking about how, you know, my intent for things actually doesn't translate well, right? So example, one day I'm talking to a friend. I'm like, hey girl, I need to vent to my friend. And it started out as a venting session. It really did. But it ended up being a gossiping session. Now my intent was to offload some of the ill feelings I had toward another person. But what actually ended up happening is I started gossiping about their business. And here's the thing. If you if you need to offload something, you don't know if you gossiping or if you are venting, take it to God. Because he ain't going to tell nobody. And he actually giving you something that'll actually help you versus just listening and giving advice that you already knew about. So another intent that I had to check, you know, myself on was bragging. Like I'm forever like I'm bragging on God did it, God did it. Sometimes that God did it went from we did it to I did it. Like look what I did, and I ended up bragging on me. Like I got power. And I do, but it's through God. So it's like, I get that. I get where Kirk was coming from. You want to make sure that your intentions are pure when you are showing up in the world. And it's okay if people decide to check you or to judge you a little bit to make sure that your intentions are pure. Again, I absolutely love this episode. I love every episode that I've watched so far, and I've seen quite a few. But I do want you to take a moment to watch that episode of Den of Kings. I'll put the link in the description box for you to review and enjoy. But Kirk Franklin did his thing. I really enjoy those episodes. And as a woman, if you've never seen the episode, I really do. If you are a woman and you have relationships with men, whether they're platonic, intimate, you know, whatever your relationship, if your child, this will really help you get inside the head of a man so that you can know how to show up and be for him what he may not be able to articulate or may not feel comfortable articulating to you. So that's all I got for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining and listening in. I hope this was helpful for you. Happy New Year, because today is 2026. What is it? January 2nd, 2026. So thank you so much and Happy New Year to you. May God continue to bless you and keep you, child. Until next time, I love you all day. Peace.